So, to provide you with the latest information on this incident, I want to introduce on my left Sheriff Jeff Dean. Excuse me. This is the Sheriff of Ventura County. The name is spelled Geoff. Last name is spelled Dean. On my right is Ryan Young. He's a special agent in charge of the Los Angeles field office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. His name is spelled Ryan. Last name is Young. Also on my right is LD Maples. He's the chief of the Coastal Division of the California Highway Patrol. First name is spelled LD. Last name Maples, Maples. So right now I'm going to hand it over to Sheriff Dean to give you the latest.
Good morning. You're all experienced reporters, and you understand this is dynamic, ongoing investigation and a tragic situation. So I'll go through the details. I'll share with you everything I have, and we'll answer all the questions you may have. Our partners from the FBI and the Highway Patrol will also answer any additional questions you might have. Tonight at 11:20 p.m., Sheriff's 911 received multiple calls of shots being fired at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks. Our first sheriff's unit arrived on scene. 3 minutes later, there was also 2 Highway Patrol officers on scene who had been on a local traffic stop and heard the traffic and responded right away. Approximately 3 minutes later, a Highway Patrol officer and a sheriff's sergeant made entry into the Borderline because they heard shots being fired and felt there might be additional victims inside. Upon going through the front door, the sheriff's sergeant was struck multiple times with gunfire. The Highway Patrol officer stepped back and secured the perimeter until additional units arrived, and he rescued the sheriff's sergeant out of the line of gunfire. When additional units arrived, including SWAT personnel, agencies from the Oxnard Police Department, the Simi Valley Police Department, the Ventura Police Department, and additional officers from the Highway Patrol, they made entry into the Borderline Bar and Grill. They found 11 victims that had been killed. The suspect, who we believe was the only suspect, was dead inside. And there were multiple other victims of different levels of injury inside that were rescued from the scene and taken to local hospitals. In addition to the victims inside, and the numbers are upwards of 10 to 12, additional victims with minor injuries fled the scene on their own and took themselves to local hospitals. We have not identified the suspect yet. Our partners from the FBI were on scene almost immediately to help us with the identification process and with crime scene processing. We have no idea if there is a terrorism link to this event or not. As you know, these are ongoing investigations, and that information will come out as soon as we're able to determine exactly who the suspect was and what motive he might have had for this horrific event. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Well, the Sergeant Hillis died at the the sergeant passed away at the hospital about an hour ago. I only mentioned it might be terrorists because that's where we all go these days when we have multiple shootings like this. There's no reason for it, and we have this horrific death. I have nothing to lead me to believe, or the FBI, that there is any terrorism link here, but we certainly will look at that option. I'm sorry? What do you mean by devices? There's some initial reports that a smoke bomb might have been used. We have not found anything yet. We have called in our bomb team to go in through, and we have a couple bomb dogs here that are checking the area, but we haven't found any other explosive device or confirmation that there was a smoke device.
What does that make you think if there was a smoke device?
Well, hindsight and speculation is pretty easy. You would think if someone throws a smoke device that it was certainly more of a planned attack and not something spontaneous.
How long was he on the force? Anything about him?
Sergeant Hillis was on the force for 29 years, was looking to retire in the next year or so. He was a Moore Park resident and is survived by his wife and his son. Ron Hillis, Helus. Well, the question is, Thousand Oaks is a safe community. What do I make of this? I make it that it's a horrific incident. It's part of the horrors that are happening in our country and everywhere. And I think it's impossible to put any logic or any sense to the senseless.
Do you know if the suspect had visited this bar before? Has anybody said it?
We don't know anything about the suspect. We haven't talked to anybody that had any contact with him prior.
Lived here?
Well, I actually have no idea who he is. We don't know anything about him yet.
What about the ages of the victims? The ages of the victims? Can you tell us that they were young?
I actually don't know what the ages were. It is a nightclub, so I would, speculate they were probably in the 21 to 26-year-old age group.
Can you talk about if active shooter training played a role in Sergeant, going in and trying to prosecute the suspect immediately?
There's no doubt that the change in how we handle active shooters played a role. Sergeant Hillis and the High Patrol officer first on scene, they knew they had to take action, and they went in and did what they had to do. Yes, 13. We don't know how many are injured because they went to separate hospitals. I'm going to speculate, given what I've heard, somewhere between 10 and 15 additional injuries. And we don't know we don't believe there might be one additional gunshot victim, but we think there are other injuries, people trying to escape, breaking out windows, and doing different things.
When you see these shootings happen across the country, did you ever think that it would happen right here?
I've been a cop for 41 years, and I never thought I would see the things around the country that would happen, but I've learned it doesn't matter what community you're in, it doesn't matter how safe your community is, it can happen anywhere. Because obviously for someone to do this, they have to have some sort of mental illness, and sadly we have people with mental illness all over the country.
Sheriff, were there any threats to anybody in the bar? Any kind of indication something like this could happen?
We have actually no information about that at all. But again, we're very early on in the investigation.
Do you know what happened? We heard that he went inside, shot the security guard, and then kind of went in and started shooting. Is that what happened? Or can you walk us?
We actually don't know. I mean, we're interviewing multiple witnesses, but I can say no, we haven't got everybody together yet to really put that timeline together, and we'll certainly provide that as soon as we can get something.
Sheriff, do you have any thoughts at this time in relation to the sheriff?
It's so tragic, and losing Ron, we go to the gym together, work out together, is horrific and terrible, and it saddens our heart. But there's also parents of those 11 other victims in there whose hearts are ripped out tonight. And I know there's parents wondering, oh my gosh, what was one of my children in there, or was it my sister or my brother? So there's just no way to describe this. It saddens us all, and it tears at our hearts and emotions, as it should. And if we ever get to the point where it doesn't, then there's something wrong with us.
Sheriff, you talk about after Parkland, there was a lot of questions about police not being active enough, and it does sound like there's some trouble. What is the thought process in the department after Parkland? How has this changed?
Actually, it changed for us after Columbine, years and years ago, and we trained with our fire department for active shooting, and our officers know when you get to a scene and there's two of you or even just one of you and there's shooting going on, you go in. And that's a change of philosophy of what it used to be. And we worked so well in our county. The Ohio Patrol was here. When they made entry the second time tonight, there were Simi Valley officers, there were Oxnard officers, there were Ventura officers, there were sheriff's deputies, and there were Ohio Patrol officers. Everyone comes together to solve the problem.
And
So the time frame, so the first deputies arrived on scene at 11:22. They made entry approximately 4 minutes later. That's when Sergeant Hillis was shot. And it was, and I don't have the exact timeline, it was probably close to 15 minutes. They didn't hear any shots fired before they regrouped, got additional officers, and went back in. And there were people hiding in restrooms. There were people hiding in attics. I have no idea.
Sheriff, what other scenes are you and your law enforcement partners investigating in relation to what happened here?
What other, I'm sorry?
What other locations?
None that I know of, but certainly when we find out who the suspect is, we'll go to his location and we'll work with our bureau partners to see if there's a connection there. But at this time, there's none other that I know of. Right now, as far as we know, there was only one handgun, but that could certainly change as we do a more thorough search of the building.
And can you clarify? You said the suspect was down when authorities entered the building.
The suspect was down with a gunshot wound when the officers went into the building. Yes.
The deputy was shot by the suspect after making.
We don't know who shot the deputy.
Do you know who shot the victim? Was it self-inflicted?
We don't know who shot anybody at this point. I probably shouldn't comment on that at this time. It would be a total guess. It's a horrific scene in there. There is blood everywhere, and the suspect is part of that. And I didn't want to get that close and disturb the scene and possibly jeopardize the investigation. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. They're being interviewed by our by our investigators. I honestly don't know exactly what they said at this point. I wanted to get that information as soon as I could to you, and we'll continue to follow up. I have no idea what happened inside there.
Sergeant?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? I've met with them and talked to them. We spent time. I've made sure I talked to them before we release a name.
When can we get another update with everything that's going on?
Well, by the time, I would say, an hour and a half maybe. I don't want to waste your time and have you come up and I don't have anything. If we can get information about what the witnesses said inside or any additional on the suspect, we'll have our PIOs let you know. But I don't want to waste your time by bringing you if we don't have anything new.
How many mass shootings have you had in the county? This is the first one.
Mass shoot? I don't remember in my 41 years having a mass shooting. Ron was a hard-working, dedicated sheriff sergeant. He was totally committed. He gave his all, and tonight, as I told his wife, he died a hero because he went in to save lives, to save other people.
Sheriff, one question here. And for those parents who are waiting relatives, friends, what should they do right now?
I believe we have a victims hotline. We do. And the PIOs will give you the victims hotline number where they can call to check and just make sure.
And where were they transported? Were they all transported one place? Injured?
They went to multiple hospitals. Okay, thank you.
And CNN reporter Paul Verkaman, who has been listening in. There has been a briefing we heard live here on CBC News Network from the sheriff for Ventura County. Paul, tell us what's been happening there in the overnight hours.
Well, as you described, it was a little bit after 11 o'clock local that the gunman burst into the Borderline Bar and Grill here in Thousand Oaks, California. It is northwest of Los Angeles, a community of about 100,000 people and well known for being a safe, quiet place. What the witnesses described to us, horrifying. They said right away, one of them who had military experience said she knew it was gunfire. People are diving onto the floor. People are trying to get out. People are pushing. Friends had grabbed bar stools and knocked out windows so people could flee. It was soon after that a sheriff's deputy, Ron Hellis, a 29-year-old veteran who the sheriff said intended to retire within a year, apparently went inside and began to try to exchange gunfire. That's new now. We now know many of these law enforcement agencies are telling their deputies, if you're by yourself, if there's two of you, go ahead and go in and confront the shooter if you do and believe they are going through and systematically shooting people. The sheriff saying that Ron Hellis, who was transported to a local hospital not far from here to my right, basically died at the hospital, and that he died a hero. Absolutely terrifying. Some happy moments that we have seen, people hugging loved ones as they've come out and relieved to see that somehow they survived this. But as you pointed out, Heather, so 13 dead total, 11 dead inside, the shooter as well, and a sheriff's deputy. 10 to 12 others, we understand, taken to local hospitals. And then some other people walked away with minor injuries and were not treated at the hospital, Heather.
Paul, thank you very much. We'll come back to you for the latest, but obviously just a breaking story, much more information to come on it, and that's Paul Verkaman for CNN, and with us this morning, beginning our coverage out of Thousand Oaks, California. Madeline Carr is the news editor with the Pepperdine Graphic, the university newspaper, and she is waiting to hear if all the girls in her dorm made it out safely.
We've been in contact in text. One of our news staff was actually there because she also is a spiritual life advisor, and so we were in touch with her about. She thankfully lives in the area, so she was able to go home and take some people with her, take the girls that she was able to find with her, and I think everyone's just very shaken up about it, especially because we're still looking for some of our friends and some of the girls in the dorm.
So some are still unaccounted for at this point, people you know?
Yes, we're still trying to find them via text, and they have a hotline right now, and we've tried. A bunch of us have been reaching out to that, but still haven't. They haven't been located yet by the hotline or via phone, so we're still trying to locate people.
That's a worry. From the people you have heard from, did they give you any detail about their own experience there?
Nothing too much. I know, I think the people that I'm really close to are like the RAs and the SLAs. And in moments like this, I think their automatic reaction is to go into caring for the younger students and the freshmen because they've gone through extensive training with dealing with trauma and various experiences. So I think right now their focus is really going into making sure students are okay, making sure everyone's accounted for, gets home okay, and that sort of stuff is settled. So I think I'll probably hear more from them later, but I think right now their reaction is to care for others first.
Well, hopefully that's why you haven't heard from people so far, and we'll hope that there's nothing worse than that at all. You're coming at this from so many perspectives, someone who was almost there, someone who knows people from the dorm, but also, of course, as news editor. So you'll be deploying to cover this, I would imagine, too.
Yes, we have. So right now it's my advisor and I that are in charge of running all the Twitter updates and just checking in via a lot of platforms. But we also have two of our team that are out there reporting live on Facebook and trying to give us more information as well. So we've got like this small group, but we're working really hard to keep our smaller community informed because I don't think anyone on this campus is really sleeping tonight.